And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show. It is Wednesday, October 30th. I am Josh Engleman, and I'm here to break down a different size slate depending on where you play. 8 games on DraftKings. They dropped the 9:30 game, the 10 o'clock game, and the 10:30 game. So 8-game slate on DK, and they all lock by 8 o'clock. You really can't ask for a better setup if you're trying to get away from your computer. This is unequivocally worse for people that want a late swap. You want those games because now the late swap edge is shrunk. But if you want to walk away from your computer at 8 o'clock tonight, DraftKings is where you want to be. FanDuel is going to give you those late swap opportunities. They have all 11 games on the slate, 9:30, 10 o'clock, 10:30. It's all included. So be aware of that when you're signing up. By the way, Josh Engleman, like, subscribe, notification bell. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman. You can see it right here. Oh, I did that almost perfect. That's cool. Good morning, everybody. What's going on, chat? What's going on? Didn't get it done yesterday, unfortunately. Shout out to Nikola Jokic for being the pay up that you wanted, but I needed a lot more than that. Bets went well, though. 6-1 on tails yesterday. You can join me on tails by going to oddshopper.com, clicking the tails banner. Sign up for me. Weekly and monthly packages if you're interested. Fistula. I love it. I love it. Oh, man. So look, here's the deal. We've got 11 games. There's no chance we're simming lineups. We need to get into this right now because we got a lot to talk about. Lots going on the schedule tonight, and I'll hit that. Nice. Greg just posted it. I'll hit that in about 15 minutes. We'll talk about the NFL promo. But for now, we're going to talk some basketball. I made a lot of updates today. I probably need to do a little bit more work on New Orleans, Golden State, Portland, and the Clippers. Those final games. Doesn't carry as much weight on the DraftKings side. I went balls deep on the DK slate and then ran out of time for those final 3 games. So don't get married to any thoughts on those final 3, but it's all good. They just need like usage tweaks, assist tweaks. Nobody's like wildly off. Whew. Okay, here we go. Actually, I got to pull up one more tab. Man, I'm ready to go today. I'm feeling good. I got up way too early, though. That was not fun. I woke up at like 5:15, couldn't fall back asleep, so I was just awake. But got up, drank an Element, went for a walk, sat down and did 2 hours worth of rotational preps. Here we go. Toronto Raptors, 6.5-point dogs in Charlotte. 223 total. So this one sucks. We got right out of the gate. It's awful. Cavs are normal. No Max Strus. Going to be out for a little bit more. Raptors. Not likely that we see Emmanuel quickly. He's still doubtful. We still don't have Kelly Olynyk. We still don't have Bruce Brown. And now we don't have Scotty Barnes. So playing time for Toronto, abundant. Talent for Toronto, a little bit less abundant. I like Jakob Poeltl the most out of anybody on DK or FanDuel. He was 15% optimal for me across both sites. He's playing 30 minutes a night. I'd say he's better than Nick Richards, so matchup looks good. Charlotte, not exactly noted shot makers, so rebounding should look pretty good. Jakob Poeltl is definitely the first guy that you guys want to get to on Toronto. Second is probably RJ Barrett, 6,600 on DraftKings. Not a guy that I think you guys want to ignore. Hold on, I got to shut my garage. My wife is incapable of pressing the button above her head when she leaves the house. It's insane, honestly. So I'm going to shut that garage door. Done. Yeah, Barrett looks really good on DraftKings because he's $800 cheaper than he is on FanDuel. And on FanDuel, I don't really want much else from Toronto. I don't think they grade out all that well. pricing isn't the best. On the DK side, it's Jakob Poeltl, it's Jake Puddle, and RJ Barrett. Not much else. Grady Dick looks okay. Davion Mitchell looks okay as like last guys in. But I think Jakob Poeltl is probably going to be pulling a little bit of ownership on DraftKings because of his price. And I think RJ Barrett is probably going to get a little love too. He should have an MPE. It's insane that he's just small forward eligible, but even still, he's filling the hardest spot. Anybody else for Toronto? Not interested. Is it a little bit of a pace up spot for the Hornets? You don't see the Hornets being 6.5 point favorites all that frequently. I think the line's a little high, but just putting that out there. I've got LaMelo 15% optimal across both sites. I think that stands out against Toronto. Should look pretty good here. But I have 4 guys around 15% optimal from Charlotte. Reminder, that's like the same as Jakob Poeltl. It's LaMelo. It's $4,800 Nick Richards, because Nick Richards is $4,800 on DK and $5,700 on FanDuel. Not nearly as good. Trey Mann, I think, looks pretty good for Charlotte today. I have him 13% optimal. And then Cody Martin, I have at 13% optimal. All these guys are too cheap on DK. Trey Mann, $700 cheaper than he is on FanDuel. Cody Martin is $600 cheaper on DraftKings than he is on FanDuel. Seth Curry, if he starts again, is $500 cheaper on DraftKings than he is on FanDuel. So not nearly the priorities for the Hornets on the FanDuel side compared to DK. I anticipate having quite a bit of Charlotte. They're going to look like one of the better teams. Not like they're and it's not even because a bunch of people are out. Like obviously Brandon Miller is still out, but prices have had the opportunity to come back up at that point. Only guy that I'm not enamored with is Miles Bridges. He's power forward only, 7,200, which is $400 more expensive than FanDuel. He still looks okay. I just don't expect him to get much ownership. But I think Ball, Richards, Mann, and Cody Martin should all see some love. Chat, since you're here, do you guys have any interest in Toronto or Charlotte? Curious what you guys think. I'm going to keep my eyes posted on ownership. I know that's going to come a little bit later during the show. These big slates take a little bit of time to get through in the morning. So shout out to the data team on the back end. I know they're working hard. We'll be able to loop back into ownership. Yeah, I'm with you, Jeremy. It's just, I think this one's pretty cut and dry. I'm a loser till I win the Millie says I like Mann. Mark says he likes Jakob Poeltl. With you on both of them. With you on both of them. There's nobody weird that I think that we need to dig into. The Demonaut says Richards. Agreed, man. 4,800 is just too cheap for him. And he doesn't have a matchup against somebody that is highly likely to foul him out. Jakob Poeltl, not exactly like a huge me. Oh, there we go. Did that glitch out to you guys? Because I had a big black screen and a spinning wheel next to me. Did I ever glitch out, or was it just normal and I was staring and not doing anything? Speaking of, I need to put a little bit of music on. There we go. Okay, it did glitch out. Good. Cool. I don't know what happened. I looked over and the entire screen was gone. So let's go to game number 2. This should be a real fun one. Los Angeles Lakers. 5-point dogs in Cleveland. 225 total. LeBron James and the 3-1 Lakers heading back to Cleveland. Exciting stuff. And the Lakers side of this one looks good. Luckily for us, Lakers aren't messing around with their rotation. They are very tight to 9 dudes. So I've got around 14% optimal to AD on both sites. Austin Reeves is $700 cheaper on FanDuel. He's $6,300 on DK. He's 14% optimal. I've got Rui in double-digit optimal on DK. I've got LeBron at 11%. And I am undoubtedly light on LeBron right now. His points prop is way higher than what I have, and I'm not changing that till later. I think his line is juiced because he's LeBron James, and it will slowly come down throughout the day. We shall see. Since nobody wants to bet an under, no one's going to wake up, see a mispriced line on LeBron and take the under unless you use Odds Shopper and you're smart. But I think it's going to come down later today, so we'll see. What else do we have here? So those four guys are all 10 to 15% optimal. Basically the same situation on FanDuel, just a little lighter because Reeves is more expensive. Rui's $800 more expensive. So those guys don't look as good. You're not going to anything on the bench. Reminder, big slate, you're probably not paying attention to bench guys all that much. But for the starters, AD is the priority. Very easy, but center only, so roster spots are a little different. If I'm getting to one guy, though, from the Lakers, I think it's going to be Austin Reeves. Point guard, shooting guard, 6,300. He's playing 36 minutes a night, and I think JJ is unlocking him a bit. So paying close attention to his ownership will be important. AD and Reeves are the best two guys you can get to from the Lakers, but, Rui's playing 36 minutes a night. LeBron's playing 35 minutes a night. There's a lot of playing time going around here, and I really like this Lakers starters. Only downside, this is a horrific matchup. It's a pace down spot for LA, and Cleveland's defense is really, really good. By starting Dwayne. Maybe that was the issue. Did they make the Dwayne Wade statue out of Dean Wade's face? Maybe that was the problem. Cleveland's defense with Wade in at the small forward, unbeatable. There's no better 3, 4, 5 in the league defensively than Wade, Mobley, Allen. So LeBron, the Lakers are going to have a real tough time getting to the rack today. Cleveland side does not look all that good. It certainly doesn't look as good as the Lakers side. Only Donovan Mitchell on FanDuel got to double digits in optimal. But Mitchell, Mobley, Garland are all at 9%. And then everybody falls down. I don't really want anybody on Cleveland outside of Mitchell, Mobley, and Garland. And if you really want me to pick, I don't think I can. Ownership will dictate those three. I don't think any of them separate. They all look equally average. What do you guys like from Cleveland and LA? Oh, gotta stretch. Tight. You guys like anything here? I think the main plays you want are from the Lakers. AD, Reeves, Rui, and LeBron have higher optimal rates than anybody on Cleveland. For me. So, we'll see. Thanks for the help there, John C. Cleveland guards. Yeah, I don't mind getting to Mitchell and Garland. They're not, as best I could tell, they're not going to be all that highly owned. Garland's looking good so far. He had a little bit of pep in his step last time out. Game 3, Boston Celtics, 7.5 point favorites in Indiana, 233 total. Sam Hauser probable for today. So we're going to get him back, and we're going to get that 9-man rotation out of Boston again. Not the great matchup against Indy. Really bad defense, a little bit faster pace. But it's Boston. They're the same thing that they always are. You want to play Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum? Good. They're the two best guys. You want to play a little Derek White at 6,900? Good. He looks fine. You can play Drew Holiday, Al Horford. It's okay. They're not priorities. No one on Boston is a priority, but Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum certainly need a look. I just don't think they're the specific pay-up options that we're going to talk about as guys soaking up a ton of ownership. Well, somebody from Boston is going to be great. There's too much talent here to go around. Their offense is, for as good as you could think Indy's offense is, Boston's 3.5 points better. And they're 5 points better defensively. Rob Rice, yeah, same. I like Derek White tonight too. 8% optimal on DK, 9% optimal on FanDuel, MPEs across both sites. I don't have anybody that I just want to absolutely have from Boston, but I'm going to rotate through Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Derek White. Then on the Indy side, not a lot here. They don't really mess around too much with their rotations either. Best guy here, though, very clearly is Andrew Nembhard. 4,400 on DK. He's playing like 32 minutes a night. He's got point guard, shooting guard eligibility. I don't like going to Andrew Nembhard, but he's the best play here. 0.8 fantasy points per minute. Even at $5K on FanDuel, $600 more expensive, he's still my highest optimal guy from Indy. Halliburton's fine. I don't know what to make of him right now. This matchup for Tyrese Halliburton is about as bad as it gets. Whether he's getting Derek White or Drew Holiday, he's going to have somebody in his bag the entire time. Siakam's okay. Miles Turner's okay. Miles Turner is questionable too today. So something that you guys want to keep a very close eye on, because if Miles Turner happens to be out, Isaiah Jackson is going to be one of the most popular plays on today's slate. 3,800 center only. We're talking about a guy that's like a 1.1 fantasy point per minute dude. You will get to all things Isaiah Jackson if Miles Turner happens to be out. If Miles Turner is in, then the priority coming out of Indiana is going to be Andrew Nembhard. If I'm being technical, I believe Andrew Nembhard, so Andrew Nembhard's optimal rate is the same as Jakob Poeltl, which is 16%. That's the highest we've seen so far. Jack Adams, thanks for the shout. I probably have a DM that says that. Jack, are you sure about that? Because it's not up for me. I didn't want today to be an Andrew Nembhard chalk day, but today is going to be an Andrew Nembhard chalk day. So, get excited, everybody. He's going to get destroyed. Jack Adams, where are you seeing this? Is it a different site? It is up, isn't it? Now. Maybe. Okay. Thanks, Jack. Jeremy, I think he's going to be chalk. 4,400 with an MPE on an 8-gamer. He's going to be pretty heavily owned. That Clowney play was trash yesterday. Done listening. Well, thanks, William Holyfield. You know who didn't tell you to do that? Me. I didn't play him. Why are you bitching at me? I had 8% of Clowney yesterday. He was 30-something owned. Maybe this is the exact show you should be listening to. Because I didn't tell you to do it. I didn't trust that idiot. I was cheering against him from minute one. You can see that on playback.tv/Stokastic every night. All right, we're going to game 4. Before we do, schedule for today. And hit that like button, folks. Please help me out. All right. I'm obviously on the strategy show right now. NFL strategy with Laffy and Greg is coming up next. They'll be doing that one at 10 a.m. 2 p.m. NHL strategy show. 5 p.m. myself and Chris Spags will be here breaking down all of these games once again on the Deeper Dive. Greg and Eric will be back for Live Before Lock. And then Greg and I will be live on Playback watching some basketball. Corey McDaniel, glad you're here. The Detroit Pistons are 4-point underdogs in Philly. 216.5 total. This is the third lowest total on today's slate. And Detroit looks okay. They've got 3 guys on DraftKings, at least 10% optimal for me. I'm guessing the DM I just got is the ownership. Sure is. Ownership is up on Stokastic.com if you're interested. And just to let you guys know, Jakob Poeltl is your highest owned player on today's slate. I know these things. Definitely going to be a little bit more wrong about Nembhard, though. But I don't think that I am. All right, I'm going to circle back and hit ownership before we get to Detroit and Philly. So, Toronto, Charlotte. Jakob Poeltl, 55%. RJ Barrett, 51%. Both of those numbers are going to come down throughout the day. But I think the point is they are the guys you want to pay attention to. 43% ownership coming into LaMelo Ball. Again, I expect that to come down a bit. But he's the guy that we pointed out. Trey Mann's 20% owned. Nick Richards. Wait, did I paste FanDuel? Yeah, I pasted FanDuel into DraftKings. That's dumb. There we go. 40 to LaMelo Ball and DK, 20 to Trey Mann, 10 to Nick Richards. So all the guys there that we talked about ended up being the guys pulling ownership. For the Lakers, no one is in double digits of ownership. Rui's at 4, AD's at 8. I'm a little bit bigger of a believer in the Lakers than ownership. Cleveland doesn't have a single person in double digits in ownership. That makes a lot of sense to me. Boston and Indy, highest owned guy from Boston on DraftKings is 6% to Jason Tatum. I mostly agree. Boston just looks like a good GPP team. Single digit ownership to everybody else on DraftKings for Indy as well. 7% to Nembhard is the high mark. I think Andrew Nembhard is wildly underowned as a value play. Yeah, I'm waiting for Lindy Waters to not play tonight. It's going to be hilarious. All right, back to Detroit and Philly. So 14% ownership to Tobias Harris on DraftKings, 30 on FanDuel. He is one of the better options from Detroit. I think the ownership is right on DraftKings and too high on FanDuel. Cade is 8% on both sites. Probably a hair underowned given his role right now. And then Tim Hardaway is 7% owned. Maybe a hair underowned. 4,400 shooting guard, small forward. Really good flexibility. Not a lot here to like from Detroit. This 216 total in the game is carrying a lot of weight and largely negating a lot of what we like here, particularly on the Detroit side. On the Philly side, 30% ownership is coming into Caleb Martin, and 30% ownership is coming into Andre Drummond. I'd say Caleb Martin is probably a little bit closer to right. He, to me, is the best guy you can get to here if you can't get to Maxey. 29% of Drummond feels a little high. Because Detroit does have big men. Like, Jalen Duren is an actual big body, real center. Isaiah Stewart is, like, close enough to that. He's definitely stout enough for this. So I think Andre Drummond's getting a little bit too much love. I mean, I have him projected for 12.5 points and close to 14 rebounds. I don't think I'm being super pessimistic on him. I just don't necessarily know if I need chalk Andre Drummond today. I think there are going to be centers you can get to as a pivot that will look more interesting. But I don't mind the Caleb Martin ownership. 5,100 on DK, small forward, power forward eligible. He's like a 0.8 fantasy point per minute guy. 13 points, 5.5 boards, 2.5 assists. I don't want that much Drummond. I think that's going to be takeaway. I don't mind having that much Caleb Martin. And whatever you get to on Tyrese Maxey, I think is fine. Kelly Oubre is also pulling pretty massive ownership on FanDuel, more than he should be. Not much else here for Detroit and Philly. It's just a game that we like. The next game we're about to talk about, Atlanta and Washington, has a total 20 points higher than this one. So it's always going to be really hard for me to want to get to guys like this. And that's why I feel like this ownership is a hair high in this game, because I don't think it's that appealing. Ugh, Atlanta and Washington. So for the Hawks, Bogdanovich is still out. Dyson Daniels is out now. DeAndre Hunter is questionable. Vit Krejci is out. We got to keep an eye on whether or not their G League guys will be around. We have 10 to 15% ownership on Trey, Jalen Johnson, and DeAndre Hunter, along with Onyeka Okongwu. I want Trey more than anything else I can get here. 9,900 on DK, 9,800 on FanDuel. There's basically only one other guy that can take a shot on this team, and it's reasonable, and that's Jalen Johnson. I mean, obviously, you can let Garrison Matthews shoot threes, but that's not really what I mean. So I'd like to get to Trey. I can make a case that he's a little under-owned for what we're looking for. Hunter at 17 is fair, I guess. Jalen Johnson at 10 is fair. I went 26 to Okongwu, same as what he's been playing, 22 to Capella. There's not much else here for Atlanta. I thought they'd look a little bit better with all these guys out. I thought Risache would look a little bit better. He's only 4% owned, maybe a little bit too low owned. If Garrison Matthews starts, he could look kind of interesting at 3,300, but you need every minute possible because that idiot's terrible at basketball for DFS. Good shooter, though. Good shooter. Okongwu pulling a little bit more love on FanDuel. He has power forward eligibility there as well, so that helps out a ton. Jack Adams says, I like getting to a ton of Jalen Johnson. I don't know about a ton, but he looks good. Sorry. Shorts are all jammed up on my seat. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I don't mind Jalen Johnson. I think he's the second best Atlanta guy you can get to. Maybe not a ton, though. The team we need to talk about is the Wizards. They're going to be one of the most owned teams today because Kyle Kuzma is out for this one. Jeremy Savage going out on a limb saying Jalen Johnson will put up 40 plus fantasy points again. Well, I have him projected for 41.7, so I agree. He is more likely to put up 40 plus than less. You said 50 plus? We could talk. 40 plus is just his projection. Andrew Martinez, absolutely not. No shot on these big ones. Tomorrow, only 4 games? Absolutely. So tons of ownership coming into the Wizards because of the lack of Kyle Kuzma. My guess is Corey Kispert is going to start, and we're going to see Poole, Kispert, Koulibaly, Sarr, Joval. That's my guess. 30% ownership to Bilal Koulibaly on both sites. 30 plus for Jordan Poole on both sites. 20 for Corey Kispert on both sites. Around 15 for Joval. And then 20 for Kaishan George on DK. Tons of ownership because we're freeing up like 30-something minutes of a starter. Like everything changes for Washington. I had Koulibaly on DK as the most optimal guy. I think his ownership is fully warranted. For the most part, I think Jordan Poole's ownership is fully warranted. Both of those guys look really good. High-level priorities on DK today. I am not as big of a believer in Kaishan. Is appealing. It's a good price. He might just be like a little overrepresented. There's going to be a lot of guys, I think, today that look like Kaishan George. Joval's 12% owned. Look, 5,800 for a guy that's going to play like 22 minutes. You need the perfect game out of Joval. And if Capella and Okongwu are there, I don't love it. Kispert being 19% owned makes a lot of sense to me, assuming he starts. Shooting guard, small forward eligibility is the easiest thing to get to. I think he's good enough in this spot. Should get a ton of threes up. So the priorities for Washington. Tier 1 is Koulibaly and Jordan Poole on both sites. I would say the next guy you want is Corey Kispert, particularly on DraftKings. Not that he's not good on FanDuel, but 3-point bonus helps. And then I don't mind getting to Joe Val and Kaishan George, but I don't necessarily want them as much as the public does. Whew. I mean, this game stunk 2 days ago. I don't want to watch this again. Unfortunately, we're going to have to do that. Game number 6. The New York Knicks are 2-point favorites in Miami, 214.5 total. For DraftKings, this is the lowest total on today's slate. For FanDuel, this is the second lowest. It's a point behind Portland and the Clippers. Well, for the Knicks, we kind of know what they're doing with their rotation because they don't have much of a choice. Although Ariel Hukporti has been used in their most recent game more than Jericho Sims. So something to keep an eye on, not something that really matters for today. Josh Hart's questionable. That is massive news. The trickle-down effect to what that does will be huge. No one's getting to the Knicks. 7% ownership to Towns on DraftKings is the high mark. 8% ownership to Jalen Brunson on FanDuel is the high mark. I think these guys are wildly underowned. I think OG Anunoby being unowned is too low. I think Jalen Brunson being 6% is a hair too low. And if Josh Hart starts and plays, 6,100 for him, small forward, power forward eligibility, I want like 10% of him too. Bridges as well. These guys aren't getting much ownership, but to me, they just look like really good GPP pivots. Like nobody's getting to the Knicks, but I kind of like the idea of getting to the Knicks in tournaments. It's not going to take a lot to get over the field. But if you think nobody's getting to the Knicks, you haven't looked at Miami yet. 6 total percent ownership on DraftKings to Miami. 6 total percent ownership to the Heat on FanDuel. Tyler Hero at 3% on both sites is the high mark. They're like the Knicks, but worse. Surely you can use some of those starters in GPPs. My expectation is that I don't end up with a single share of anybody from Miami. This is a team that I don't want to talk about. This is a team that both teams play slow. The total is low. I am going to wash my hands of the Miami Heat today. Malcolm Towers. Probably. Do me a favor. How many entries? How many entries? You're saying wasn't quite 5K. If you tell me it was like 4, okay. If you tell me it's 1,000, okay. How many entries? More like 1,000, not like 4,000? Yeah, okay. Okay. Nothing I can do on that one. Oh, Malcolm, if you were in the ballpark, we would have pushed that through. I can't on 1,000 because that'll open the floodgates. Oh. Okay. Oh, gotcha. I was like, Malcolm, what are you doing, man? You're killing me in this chat. If you were close, we would have got that done. But if I did 1,000, then everybody'd be here. Thanks. Glad you're here. Hey, $1,000 last night. You could easily pick up a month. All right. Let's talk about a promo, shall we? Ba-boom. I know this is an NBA show, but hear me out. I know you guys like the NFL as well. Rick12324, that gorgeous Stokastic avatar, won the millie on DraftKings this past Sunday. To celebrate Rick, we are running a millie promo. 30% off your first payment for any NFL package that we have, week or month. You can just take 30% off. So if you play NFL DFS, if you like our NBA product and you're on the fence about NFL, 30% savings if you're looking for it. Come in for 30% off for a month. Celebrate Rick winning the Millie with the Stokastic avatar. You got to do it. You got to do it. There is a link in the description of this video. Click that link. It'll take you right over to the page and you can sign up. Or if you prefer, you can type in the code yourself while checking out. The promo code is MILL, M-I-L-L. This deal will run until Tuesday of next week, but you should get in now. Today's Wednesday. Lock it in. Start looking at some data. We've got Thursday Night Football tomorrow. Hill, nice. Malcolm, glad you're here, man. Let's just check something. News God, you in chat by any chance? Brooklyn, 11.5-point underdogs in Memphis, 226 total. Memphis sucks. Let's get Memphis out of the way first, because we're going to spend some time on Brooklyn. 4% ownership is coming into Santi Aldama and nothing else on both sites. Ja Morant is questionable. We have no idea what Memphis is going to look like tonight. It's a wild card at this moment. Edey's questionable. Konchar's questionable. Morant's questionable. We're going to need a lot of news. Memphis is a deeper dive team. Brooklyn, however, huge ownership. 15% to Cam Thomas on DK, 5 on FanDuel. 35 to Dennis Schroeder on DraftKings, 15 on FanDuel. 10 more to Cam Johnson on DK. 15 to Dorian Finney-Smith on both sites. 14 to Ben Simmons on DraftKings. 23 on FanDuel. Another 10 to Noah Clowney. And you chalk donkeys chasing yesterday, 20% ownership to Zaire Williams. All right, we'll start with the guy that's the best. Dennis Schroeder, unequivocally number one play on Brooklyn. That ownership is spot on. I had him 16% optimal, which was the same as like Jakob Poeltl. Dennis Schroeder should be chalk. He smashed yesterday. You should be going right back to him again today because of that price tag. I think the second best option that you can get to is Cam Thomas, but I think him, Cam Johnson, and Dorian Finney-Smith all look very similar. They're like 15-ish% owned guys. There's two guys we need to talk about. The first is Ben Simmons. If he's 14% owned, I want 0. He's point guard only, so you don't even have any flexibility. He's going to play 24 minutes. There's no minutes upside right tail. Stay as far away from Ben Simmons as you possibly can. The talking point that we need here is the 20% ownership on Zaire Williams. I don't believe that that is going to exist in any way when we get to lock. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think it's going to be there because Ben Simmons is back. We're putting 24 minutes back into this rotation. I think you see Jalen Wilson come down, Zaire Williams come down. Zaire Williams should now just be a regular bench piece because of Simmons being back. I will have 0 of him unless we hear otherwise. How did I miss that? Ignore everything I just said. The lack of an injury report for Brooklyn had me miss the Claxton news. So everything I just said about Zaire Williams, not true. He will be 20% owned. I'm going to make a move to those minutes quickly. Yeah, he's absolutely going to be that owned. Apologies, guys. No injury report for Brooklyn. So, unless I'm Googling every single name, that one just wasn't in my line of sight. Oh, God. All right, so Clowney's going to have to play more. And then that could probably get Keon Johnson back on. Oh, man, they're dead in the water today. Whew. All right, so spin it backwards. Zaire Williams is absolutely going to be owned today because the minutes are still there. 3,200 as well. And then Noah Clowney is going to look pretty good as well because they don't have any other bodies. They don't have any other bodies. So 3,700 for Clowney, power forward center on DK. Yeah, and by all accounts, Ben Simmons could sit today too, but we have no reason to suspect he is out until he's out. The Claxton news is actually public. Just wasn't to me before I got to this show. We'll have a lot more information on the deeper dive. I think the easiest way to describe Brooklyn is you have to play a ton of them. They have 7 guys 10% owned or more. Thomas, Schroeder, Johnson, Finney-Smith, Simmons, Clowney, Williams. That's not going anywhere. So we'll have more granular detail when we get to the deeper dive tonight. Schroeder is going to be aggressive chalk today no matter what. And all of these guys are going to be pulling like 10+% ownership. That's the takeaway. No one is rostering Memphis. The fact that I've said it again is already too much conversation for Memphis. That marks the end of this slate for DraftKings. There are no more DraftKings games. San Antonio, OKC, Pelicans, Warriors, Blazers, Clippers. None of these games are on the slate. So the DraftKings portion of this show, gone. The San Antonio Spurs are 12.5-point underdogs in OKC. Big old dogs. 221 total. No ownership coming in to San Antonio or Oklahoma City. Highest owned guy on FanDuel is 4% to either Jalen Williams or Victor Wembanyama. I have both of those guys at 7% optimal, which is also the highest marks that I have in this game. You are not prioritizing anything from San Antonio and OKC on FanDuel tonight. By all means, play Victor Wembanyama, play Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Oh, I did skip Orlando. Thanks, guys. We'll finish San Antonio and OKC. There are no priorities. Play the best players. Orlando, Chicago. My apologies. It's been a morning, guys. It's been a morning. I've been looking at this stuff for 4 hours now. I'm going brain dead. All right. One more game for DK. We've got like 10 to 15% ownership on Paolo, Franz, Wendell Carter Jr., and Jalen Suggs. We have single-digit ownership to everybody on Chicago. I like Kobe White in GPPs at 7K. A little underrepresented. There are no other priorities from the Chicago Bulls on either site. On DK, Banchero's pretty much properly owned, right around 15%. I think Franz should be around 10. I think Wendell Carter should be around 10. Suggs at 15 feels a little high. The fact that he's $1,200 cheaper than he is on FanDuel, though, don't play him on FanDuel, is the takeaway. The guy I want the most from Orlando, though, is definitely Paolo. 9,100 on DK, power forward only, coming off of a monster. Nikola Vucevic and Patrick Williams aren't the guys to check him. So he should have another really nice night tonight against the Bulls. Like, really nice. One thing I want to look at here. Yeah, Paolo been a little bit more efficient this year. He's finally average, which is nice to see. Nicholas, he's not playing like an MVP, but it's been solid. but not an MVP. Not close either. But he is the priority from Orlando. Franz, Wendell Carter Jr. both look solid. Back to FanDuel? There aren't any more DraftKings games, right? The New Orleans Pelicans. 3-point underdogs in Golden State. 219 total. So for the Pels, seems like this one's pretty cut and dry. Don't play anybody. Highest owned guy from the Pelicans on FanDuel, 5% to either CJ McCollum or Brandon Ingram. They're fine. You want to play Ingram, Zion, McCollum? It's okay. They're not priorities. And it's kind of the same situation for Golden State. Now, obviously, we don't know what Golden State's going to do tonight. No Steph once again. I'm pretty sure no DeAnthony Melton as well. We ended up getting like 30 minutes out of Lindy Waters. Kuminga came off the bench. Moody started, played 17 minutes, and still had 17 real points, which is stupid as shit. This whole team's dumb, but their prices are up a little bit from yesterday. Highest owned guy from the Warriors is 7% Buddy Hield. I actually like that. 5% ownership coming into Pajemski. I actually like that. But these guys are GPP plays only. There's not a single priority coming from Golden State on FanDuel. You're not going to Lindy Waters for 3,800. There's no confidence in something like that. Everything that I see for the Warriors is unappealing on FanDuel. Maybe this would be a different story if they were on DraftKings. I don't see anything on FanDuel that you want to go out of your way to get. They just don't look that great on FanDuel. And ownership showing it. 19% total to all of the Warriors. 20% total to all of the Pelicans. This is just not a game we're prioritizing. We got to remember, there's 11 games on the FanDuel slate. You got to look really good to be a priority. But I don't anticipate having much of anything from this one. This will be a game that I would expect to get to at like 8 o'clock and 8:30 after I'm swapping and seeing where my lineups are. Because you have CJ, Ingram, Zion, and then these like weird value options from Golden State, I think that'll pick up ownership as you're swapping. I don't think it's a team you get to a lot prior to lock. And finally, game number 11 on today's slate for the 492 of you that are in here. One last time. Can you hit the like button for me? And make sure you subscribe. We have constant content. Blazers are 8.5-point underdogs in LA, taking on the LA Clippers. 213.5 total is the lowest total on the FanDuel slate. No one on Portland is owned more than 9%. That's DeAndre Ayton. I think it looks okay at 6,600. I actually had him 11% optimal and the most optimal player from Portland. I'm willing to take a flyer on Anthony Simons. Jeremy Grant looks okay in a GPP because he's unowned. But there are not a lot of things to like here from Portland. This is a bad basketball team. Not to mention the other key takeaway. They're 8.5-point dogs in the lowest total game. They have the lowest implied total on today's slate. It's not good for Portland. It's a lot better for the Clippers. 20% ownership coming into Norm Powell, close to 20% ownership coming into James Harden, and another 10 to Zubats. I had Harden and Powell both north of 10% optimal, so I think both of their ownership looks reasonable. Zubats being 7,200 is a pretty healthy price tag for him, but I think he deserves it. DeAndre Ayton is Charmin soft. Zubats is like the exact opposite of that. I think he's going to clown Ayton tonight. Those are really the only three guys that I care about. Maybe you want to roll the dice on like Derrick Jones Jr. for value, but I don't really see it. So let's sum it up. You guys want my top plays? Contenders preview incoming. – So those are my optimal rates to start the day. That value on Nick Richards is tough to avoid. Richards, Schroeder, Nembhard, Jake Puddle, Trae Young, Bilal Coulibaly, LaMelo Ball, Anthony Davis, Austin Reeves, and Josh Hart. Mohammed, is that a real question? Jack Adams, I have no thoughts on anybody on Memphis. They're terrible. And then finally for FanDuel, Trae Young, LaMelo Ball, Jake Puddle, AD, Jalen Johnson, Tyrese Maxey, Andrew Nembhard, LeBron James, DeAndre Ayton, and Dennis Schroeder. This is what I've got going on for you guys today. It's been a fun one, man. Another show in the books, though. Anything else you guys want me to touch on before I get out of here? Where's my sheet? There it is. One last reminder, MILL, 30% off any NFL package. We've got lots of shows coming up later today. Any questions before I get out of here? We have 1 or 2 more minutes before I have to dip and get to the NFL strategy show. You guys got any further questions? That means we're calling it. Thank you guys for being here. I will be back tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern time, to break down tomorrow's 4-game slate. Thank you guys for being here. Sign up at Stokastic using the links in the description, and I will talk to you later.